The greatest of all time. It's the Dream Season Playoffs. In the first game, the 1976 Oakland Raiders, the crown jewel in Al Davis's 3 decades of glory, meet Don Shula's Miami Dolphins, the only undefeated champion in NFL history. Offenses on different philosophies. Steve, what's the big difference?
Ball control. That's a phrase we'll be hearing more often today than the latest Dan Quayle joke. Ball control. The Dolphins believe in it. The Raiders don't. Now, Oakland doesn't care about ball control because they don't need the ball much to score. The Raiders, with Cliff Branch, as we've seen throughout this Dream season, can score on anyone from anywhere on the field.
Well, with the Raiders, you have your back to the wall when they're on their own 10-yard line. They love to throw deep anytime from any place.
Well, Kenny Stabler described the difference between his style of quarterbacking and Bob Greasy's this way. Stabler said, "I like to score in 6 seconds. Bob wants to take 6 minutes." But I think Al Davis said it best when he said, "The only important thing about the time of possession is who gets to keep the ball after the game is over." And in this Dream season, the Raiders have walked off the field with every game ball.
Most of the prizes the 1976 Raiders captured in the Dream season didn't come easy, as head coach John Madden endured some prize headaches in watching his team pull off some impossible victories. In Week 1, Mark Van Egen's last-minute touchdown completed an amazing 28-27 comeback over the 68 Jets. And in Week 2, Ken Stabler found himself 99 yards away from victory against the 82 Redskins. Cliff Branch's miraculous touchdown in the final minute capped Oakland's second-half comeback and gave the Raiders an incredible 27-24 win.
We felt that we were that close in the first half, and then we just had to come back in the second half and play solid football. We couldn't do it, but we didn't know that it was going to be a barn burner the way it was.
After their barn burner, the Raiders continued to barnstorm through the Dream season, with quarterback Ken Stabler the star of this aerial show. Stabler threw for 3 touchdowns in a 28-24 win over the 69 Chiefs, and the next victims would be Tom Landry's 71 Cowboys, as Roger Staubach was out-dueled by the Snake 24-10. The following week, against Bill Parcells' 86 Giants, Stabler, the Dream season's leading touchdown passer, connected for 2 more in a 21-17 win. The Raiders were cruising with a 5-0 record, but to reach the playoffs, they needed to get past their toughest obstacle of the season, the 1985 Chicago Bears. 2 of the most intimidating teams in football history would battle with the Northern Division title at stake. The Raiders out-hit the hitmen of the 80s, and as Walter Payton and the Bears licked their wounds, Ken Stabler put the game away in the final minutes.
All the Raiders have to do is hold on to that ball for the next couple of minutes, and they're on to the playoffs.
1st and 10, the Raiders with the ball on the 27. Stabler's going to pass. He is going way downfield looking for
He's open.
Branch has it and walks off the sideline. That's going to do it. That will wrap it up. The Raiders complete the season unbeaten, and they advance to the playoffs.
The Raiders' emotional 28-17 victory was testimony to the character and resiliency they have shown throughout their quest for a Dream season championship.
We'll be back with a look at Oakland's opponent in this playoff game, the unbeaten, untied 1972 Miami Dolphins. Al Davis, the Raiders' style remains unchanged over the last 3 decades. Stretch the defense, intimidate, attack with the long pass. Now, Steve, what about the style of the Dolphins?
Well, Merrill, when you talk about the Dolphins, you're really talking about Don Shula. And his style is at once demanding and flexible. He demands excellence from his players, but is flexible enough to shape his system to fit his men, not the other way around, which is what Al Davis does. Case in point, in 1984, Shula's Super Bowl team was centered around the passing of Dan Marino. Now, the strength of his 1982 Super Bowl team was the Killer Bees defense. And, of course, the greatness of this 1972 team is balance. They led the league in both offense and defense, and, of course, they were the only NFL champion to go undefeated and untied, which is a feat they have duplicated during this dream season.
As the sun rose on the dream season, the 1972 Dolphins hoped to rise to the challenge of another perfect year. And they began by raining down on Johnny Unitas and the 59 Colts. The no-name defense swallowed up Unitas, while Miami quarterback Bob Griese gave the Colts a taste of his precision passing in a 24-6 Dolphin win. And the following week against Bob Lilly and the 71 Cowboys, Griese showed he was equally as dangerous on the run. The Dolphins chewed up the clock and the Cowboy defense with patented time-consuming drives and capitalized with the dream season's leading touchdown scorer, number 39, Larry Zonka. Zonka powered Miami to a 24-9 victory and would do the same in a 20-17 win over Matt Millen and the '83 Raiders. The following week, Miami receiver Paul Warfield was faced with a moral dilemma as he suited up on the same day as a receiver for the '64 Browns. But come game time, Warfield put his best foot forward as a Dolphin. Warfield, a man torn between two teams, showed his true allegiance to Miami in a 31-10 rout of the Browns. And in Week 5, it was time for the Dolphins' defense to show their true colors as well. Number 13, safety Jake Scott paced a unit that would allow the fewest points in the dream season and also produced the most interceptions. The Dolphins' tough zone coverage neutralized Joe Namath most of the day, while Bob Griese helped Miami build a 24-7 lead.
Griese looking. He's directing traffic. He's going to take it to the 5, and he bangs inside the flag and scores.
A comeback attempt by Namath would fall short as Miami clinched the Southern Division title with a 24-21 win. But to complete another perfect regular season, they needed a victory over Hank Stram's '69 Chiefs. Mercury Morris paced a thrilling 24-20 comeback win that carried the still perfect Dolphins into the dream season playoffs.
We've just finished one season, and we're starting a second season, really. The playoffs are a second season, and it's sudden death. One loss and you're out, and we want to think about the good things, so we're very proud of this football team.
We've seen how both teams have reached the dream season playoffs. Now stay tuned and we'll show you how they stack up against each other and what the experts will as we get set for the playoffs. Steve, when you match these two teams offensively and defensively, who do you think has the advantage?
Merrill, I think the Dolphins do. Shula emphasizes the run on offense, and that matches up well against the Raider defense, which on occasion, as we've seen this dream season, has had problems against a well-disciplined running attack. But I think the most fascinating matchup in this playoff will occur when Miami is on defense. Now, they play a very sophisticated zone defense, and it's rigged with all sorts of decoys and tripwires. It's very well disguised, and it's very hard to read. And they'll concede the small game, but rarely the long one. It's very, very difficult and very dangerous to throw deep into Miami's secondary. But the Raiders, now, they love to tread where others fear. The long pass is their specialty. That's their baby, and they're going to use it no matter what the defense. And how well they execute it, I think, is the key matchup in this game. Now, that's my viewpoint. Here's how the experts see it.
Our 76 team was a very powerful, big team, much bigger than that Dolphin team of 72. And I think that in the long run, we'd have weared them down and probably gotten some big plays on them that would have made the difference in that game.
We were bigger and stronger than they were, and they were quicker than we were. But you hope that by the fourth quarter that you make it like the 13th, 14th, 15th round of a 15-round championship. One thing about a Don Shula team, you never got anything for nothing. You always had to work for everything you got, and if you got something one time, you better not go back to it again, because it's not going to be there the next time.
Defensively, we would have to somehow find a way to stop that passing attack, knowing that the things that they like to do with the comeback type of routes that they ran, and that Stabler moving around and throwing the ball out there, really try to play the receivers tough, knowing that Kenny didn't have the strong arm to throw the bomb down the field.
Against the Dolphins, we're going to have to be very patient, get the depth in our routes, and just work the holes in the defense when we're coming inside. We're going to see a lot of zone with Jake Scott back there. With Jake, he's a very knowledgeable guy as far as sitting in that middle and reading patterns. We got to keep working, looking for those holes in the zone defense.
The most important thing about the Dolphins is that they are well coached. They're well coordinated. They don't have as many stars as you would like, but as a collective group, they're very good. You got Bonicani, the middle linebacker. He's one of the toughest middle linebackers there is to get a hold of. He's so doggone quick in there. And you got Bill Stanfield from the University of Georgia. The guy is really tough. He's a good pass rusher. That's the guy that I have to play against, and I have to make sure that I control him. If I can control him, then we got a good chance. But we got our work cut out for us tonight.
While Art Shell and the Raiders' offensive line will concentrate on protecting Ken Stabler today, the Dolphins line must provide running room for Larry Zonka.
What they do is pound at you and try to wear you down. But I think we were big enough on defense that they couldn't pound at us and they couldn't wear us down. Don't ever forget that Hendricks was one of our linebackers. Hendricks was a big play guy, could make big plays, could shut the run, could play the pass, and could destroy your passing game by rushing the passer.
We had a great offensive line that would have been able to stabilize anything Oakland would have done up front. In addition to that, we had a very strong running game to go against their defense. Secondarily wise, with Jack Tatum, would pose a problem for me in running over the middle because of the level of punishment he's capable of dealing out. Willie Brown would pose a great problem for me, who played on my side. Willie also appreciated the cerebral part of the game.
Paul, one of the greatest receivers you ever want to see on the football field. Paul ran excellent routes. I would play Paul a lot of bump and run. Don't give him the freedom of coming off the line and playing off by 67 yards, because if you play off 67 yards, Paul would actually kill you. I mean, you would never get over the things that he can do to you.
We'd have trouble with them. There's no question. They would give you problems. But I think in the long run, the Raiders, through big plays and just through total domination physically, would win the game.
The matchup is clear. The winner advances to the Dream Bowl. You can just feel the tension. It's just gripping here. Right now, let's check down to the field to see if there are any last-minute lineup changes. There's Don Shula with some final thoughts to Nick Bonicani, who is the captain of that no-name defense.
Well, that defense might have no names, but it has plenty of adjectives, Merrill. Tough, smart, unselfish, no egos. With these guys, you could shoehorn all the egos into one locker and still have room for Donald Trump.
There's Fred Biletnikoff. Speaking of great football players, there's the Hall of Famer.
Well, everyone remembers the great undefeated season of the Dolphins, but this Raider team between 1976 and 77 won 17 straight games, one short of the all-time NFL record for consecutive victories, which is held by the Dolphins.
And there's Larry Zonka and Bob Greasy, two of the reasons for that unbeaten string.
Another reason is Miami's line. Great story here, Merrill. All of them, at one time or another, were elected to the Pro Bowl. And all of them, at one point in their career, were either cut or traded.
John Madden prowling the sidelines already. There's his credential, which he traditionally ties in his belt loop. I think they'd let him in anyhow, Steve.
Well, there's Jack Tatum. hitman in a Raider defense, and the Raider defense, different than Miami's. It's more terror than tactics.
Kickoff is just ahead. One team will advance to the Dream Bowl. All set to go. The winner heads for the Dream Bowl. The crowd on its feet. Ray Guy approaches the football. The game is underway. It is a line drive going short. Picked up by one of the wedge men across the 20. 30 down at the 36. So a short kickoff, and Greasy leads the offense onto the field.
You know, Merrill, in baseball, they always say you have to be strong down the middle. Catcher, pitcher, shortstop, and center field. Well, I think the same is true in football. And Don Shula believes that his team has the finest middle ever. And he may be right. Hall of Famer Larry Zonka, number 39 at fullback. Hall of Famer Jim Langer at center, flanked by two perennial All-Pro guards, Larry Little and Bob Kuchenberg, and a quarterback, Bob Greasy, a three-time All-Pro.
And Zonka split with Morris. The give is to Morris. Morris weaves his way up the middle, picks up 9 yards, tackled by Atkinson, and Tatum at the Dolphins' 45. No surprise there.
Well, Miami runs the ball 70% of the time, and only 2 teams in modern NFL history, these Dolphins and Lombardi's Packers, won championships with offenses that relied primarily on running the ball.
If General Patton's Third Army had been a football team, it would have been these Miami Dolphins. They have 2nd and 1 at the 45. Zonka. Zonka off right tackle. Running room. Zonka picks up about 8 yards as he's brought down at the Raiders' 47s. The Dolphins in Raider territory for the first time.
Merrill, you know, you mentioned General Patton. Well, he said something I'm certain Zonka would agree with. He said, when I die, I want to die falling forward.
I always get the feeling that Zonka's kind of running downhill.
Yeah, there is a sense of heavy tonnage about him.
Boy, Madden looks concerned. 1st and 10 for the Dolphins. They are very definitely on the march. Greasy backpedals, looks over the middle. Warfield complete. Atkinson misses. He gets around Skip Thomas, still on his feet. Finally spun down. Villapiano on the tackle, but look at the elusiveness of Paul Warfield.
You know, that's the Nixon play. You know, remember before the Super Bowl in 1971, President Nixon called Shula and urged him to use it against Dallas? You know, and I think of the 400 or so passes that Warfield has caught during his career, I'll bet you 200 of them have come on that quick slant over the middle.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, that is a risky pattern for Warfield when you're talking about this Raiders secondary. They're ferocious.
It's like Fred Astaire showing up in a gathering of slam dancers.
1st and 10 for the Dolphins. They're down at the Raiders' 35. Greasy again looking deep. He's being chased. He's coming out of the pocket. Greasy running with the football, taking off down the sideline. Greasy across the 20, across the 15, and pulled down near the 10-yard line. Bob Greasy running with the football, and the Raiders' defense looks confused.
Well, the thing that impresses me most about Bob Greasy is his judgment. He seems always to be in control. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't make bad decisions. And, Merle, you know, he holds a record that may never be broken.
What's that?
He's the only quarterback to start in 3 consecutive Super Bowls.
There's Cliff Branch. He has a few postseason records. 1st and 10 Dolphins at the 10.5. Zonka. Zonka off right tackle. He's in for the score. Larry Zonka and the Dolphins strike first.
Well, let's take a look at that replay, Merrill. Watch guard Larry Little, number 66. He rides Phil Villapiano right out of there. Great block. You know, in almost every game this season, Miami drove and scored on their first possession.
A concerned John Madden with Miami leading. We have 10:03 remaining in the first quarter.
For the next 8 minutes, both teams play conservatively. Then Shula gambles with a 4th down pass from punt formation. It's incomplete, and the play's failure gives Oakland its first favorable field position of the game.
First and 10 for the Raiders. They have the ball in the Miami 48. They trail 7-0. Zonka scoring for the Dolphins. Stabler in play action. He's back. He's loading up. He's going deep downfield. Firing for Branch, who's wide open. He has it for a touchdown. Stabler to Branch. Stabler has thrown more touchdown passes than anyone in this dream season. And the Raiders come right back.
Well, if one thread runs through the most successful organizations, it's the ability to conceive a basic idea of what kind of team you want and then stick to that plan. And the Raiders' offensive trademark is length. It always has been that way. They're going deep no matter where they are in the field, no matter what the defense. And Cliff Branch, the left end, has always been the key man in their big strike concept.
Boy, is Shula upset. His defensive concept is always avoid giving up the big play. We've come to the end of the first quarter, and we're tied at 7.
15, 12, 13.
Merrill Reese and Steve Sable back as this dream season playoff action continues. Dolphins and Raiders tied at 7 apiece. Ken Stabler couldn't have thrown a more perfect pass than the one he threw to Branch.
Well, Merrill, Ken Stabler is the type of quarterback whose arm alone can breathe life into a team. Bob Greasy here, on the other hand, he isn't the passing artist that Stabler is, but more of a mechanic, an engineer. He's a guy who uses all the tools at his command to move his team, and he fits perfectly into Shula's ball control system.
In the second quarter, the Dolphins execute their game plan with precision and without error. Morris and Zonka do most of the work in a drive that culminates in a Garo Yepremian field goal, which gives Miami a 10-7 lead. Madden watches his team struggle through most of the period. But then, with less than 3 minutes remaining in the half, the Raiders launch a counterattack. Fred Biletnikoff slides into the narrow seams of Miami's zone, and Stabler pinpoints him for repeated gains.
Biletnikoff's greatest skill is working back to the ball. That means going deeper than the intended catching point and then retracing his steps to a prearranged spot and arriving there simultaneously with the football. Biletnikoff forces his secondary to contract, whereas Cliff Branch forces it to expand.
Let's go. Come on, Kenny!
And you add Dave Casper to that mix, and you can see why Madden's passing attack has been so successful in this dream season. First and 10 for the Raiders on the Miami 46. Stabler to throw again. Here comes the rush. Stabler ducks, but Manny Fernandez wraps him up. That's the first time the Snake's been sacked today.
Well, most of Miami's sacks occur because of the added time quarterbacks need to try to read the coverages in the Dolphin zone. Oh, and now Don Shula will augment that pass coverage by inserting Bob Matheson, number 53, a linebacker, in place of a defensive lineman.
Well, he can play end as well as linebacker, and the defense got its name from his uniform number. That defense was designed by Bill Arnsparger. That's him, the guy in the blue windbreaker. He is the defensive coordinator for Shula. Dolphins still lead 10-7. This is probably the final play of the first half. Second and 17 for the Raiders on their own 47. Stabler again looking downfield. He puts it in the air, looking for Biletnikoff. It's tipped. He has it. I think he's out of bounds, Steve. He looks out of bounds, Steve.
Madden thinks he scored. Out of bounds.
No, they say out of bounds. Steve, it looked to me as if he did not get the feet inbounds. The ball was tipped in the air. Amazing concentration just to catch it.
Well, the Raiders don't agree with that. And the Dolphins are off. I guess there's no replay. The Dolphins are running off the field.
I don't think there really should be a replay. I think it was pretty clear.
Well, Madden wants one, that's for sure.
Well, that's going to do it. He will not get his wish. We have reached the end of the first half. The score 10-7 Dolphins. Miami scored on the run by Larry Zonka, and they added a Garo Yepremian field goal. For the Raiders, of course, we have seen it so often, the pass from Stabler to Branch. That was their lone score. Before we preview the second half of our playoff doubleheader, Steve, your thoughts on what has transpired here so far?
Well, Merrill, the Dolphins' strategy of short gains and ball control is definitely working. They've had possession of the ball more than twice as much as Oakland, but it's a tribute to the Raiders that they could surrender such an incredible advantage and still be only 3 points behind. Right now, the Raiders' offense seems there's nothing substantial about it. They've had only 3 times that they gained more than 10 yards on a pass play. They need to get some substance. They need a good dose of brand.
My, you have a way with words. Now to the second part of the Fantastic Four, the 49ers. They won the Western Division with a 5-1 dream season record. Their only loss was to the Packers. Let's review their path to the dream season playoffs.
The 1984 49ers strode boldly into the dream season, confident that their high-tech style of football would be too much for the teams of the past. And after disposing of the 51 Rams in Week 1, they looked to do the same to Vince Lombardi's 1966 Packers.
Starr drops back. He's looking for Daller. Daller cutting downfield. Starr fires. Picked off by Ronnie Lott at the 50, 45, 40. Ronnie Lott on his feet at the 35-30. Down the right sideline goes Ronnie Lott all the way in for a touchdown.
The 49ers built a 21-7 lead, but the Packers fought back to tie the score at 21 and won the game on the final play.
3rd and goal at the 1. 11 seconds left. And Starr calling for the football. Keeps it, and he's in! What a finish!
The 49ers' heartbreaking 28-21 loss could have been a crushing early season blow. But San Francisco rebounded with a victory over the 64 Browns. And a week later, Joe Montana went to work against the 68 Jets. Montana teamed with Dwight Clark to stake the 49ers to a 24-7 lead. But it took a last-minute interception by Jack Reynolds to secure a 24-20 victory. Reynolds' interception ignited a spark in the defense that carried into Week 5 against the 1971 Cowboys. Fred Dean registered 3 of the 49ers' 5 sacks, and then watched the dream season's #1 rated offense take control of the game. The dream season's leading receiver, Dwight Clark, burned cornerback Mel Renfro for 10 catches, and Joe Montana showed why he would finish as the dream season's most accurate passer. The 49ers built a comfortable fourth-quarter lead and then shot down Roger Staubach's bid for a consolation score. Cornerback Eric Wright's interception return capped a 28-13 win that clinched the Western Division title. The 49ers closed out the regular season with a 20-10 victory over the 83 Raiders, and now, at 5-1, are peaking just in time for the dream season playoffs.
Our guys have played real well the last half of the year, and I'm just proud that we're able to, compete when everybody else is sitting at home. It's nice being in the playoffs.
The 49ers will face a team picked by many as the most powerful of all time, the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. Steve, they won the Eastern Division with a perfect record.
Well, Merrill, this is a team that can win by any means. They can beat you with one player, Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann, Franco Harris. They're all game breakers. Or they can beat you with a group of players. Their defense. The Steel Curtain is one of the toughest ever. But I think the Steelers' prime weapon is anxiety. Their speed, power, and their experience, it breeds the conviction, the anxiety, and the imposing team that they must play at a superhuman level to have any kind of a chance against the Steelers.
Few teams have even come close to defeating the 1978 Steelers in the dream season. But in Week 1, the 83 Raiders gave them their best fight. the Raiders battled to an early 14-3 lead. But when push came to shove, the Steelers threw the best knockout punch. 21 unanswered points carried Pittsburgh to a 24-14 victory. And in week 2, the Steel Curtain defense came down on Joe Namath and the 68 Jets. Mel Blount's interception was one of 4 against Namath, while Terry Bradshaw was nearly flawless for the second straight week. The Steelers were hardly challenged in a 20-7 victory, and the offense would only get better against the 77 Cowboys. No quarterback would throw for more yardage in the dream season than Terry Bradshaw, and no team would score more points than the Steelers as they followed their 31-24 win over Dallas with a 35-17 victory over the 55 Browns. But just as devastating as their offense was the Steelers' defense. And in week 5 against the 69 Chiefs, the dream season's #1 rated unit poured in on Len Dawson for 7 sacks. Meanwhile, Bradshaw went untouched, leaving Emmett Thomas and the Chiefs secondary easy prey for Lynn Swann. The Steelers clinched the Eastern Division with a 27-10 victory, but in order to complete a perfect regular season, they would have to get past Vince Lombardi's 66 Packers. Trailing Green Bay in the final minutes, Bradshaw pulled off the Steelers' first dream season miracle. Lynn Swann beat number 21 Bob Jeter for a 90-yard score to give Pittsburgh a 21-17 victory. The 6-0 Steelers had answered their toughest challenge against one of football's greatest coaching legends.
You can't take anything away from Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi proved himself. He was one of the all-time great coaches in professional football, maybe the greatest. But Chuck Noll certainly is ranking right up there with him.
After we started winning, I knew we were going to keep on winning. We get on fire, we get confident, we get that fever, and we're hard to play. I'd hate to have to play against us. Our running game right now is at its peak, and we get a little passing going, and it's going to be hard to beat. Hard to beat.
Field goal has been the difference as the Dolphins lead 10-7 here in the third quarter. Dolphins have the ball on their own 19-yard line. Gracie has been making that running game work. Mercury Morris. Morris juking his way into the secondary, still on his feet across the 25, across the 30, 35, 40, 45. Mercury Morris pulled down near midfield. He picked up almost 30 yards. Brilliant running by Mercury Morris.
Well, with Morris and Zonka, the Dolphins were the first team in NFL history to have 2,000-yard rushers in the same year. And also in that year, they both averaged over 5 yards per carry.
Steve, I think the most astounding fact about the Dolphins' undefeated season in 1972 was the fact that Bob Greasy missed 9 games with a broken ankle.
That's right. They lost their starting quarterback for more than half the season and still went undefeated. Earl Morrall, who was 38 years old at the time, he replaced Greasy and led the team to 9 wins. And he's seen very little action this dream season because Greasy's been healthy.
1st and 10 Dolphins leading by 3. Greasy departs from the running game. He's looking downfield. He lets it go. Intercepted. Villapiano picks it off and comes back to midfield. So Greasy throws it right into the hands of Villapiano. Greasy has had the fewest passes intercepted of any quarterback in the dream season, but he was off target that time.
A surprising gamble there by a quarterback who rarely takes chances.
Well, the Raiders turned Miami's last gamble, that 4th down pass, into a first quarter touchdown. That's the first turnover of the game. 1st and 10 for the Raiders offense. Back in business at midfield. Here comes the Dolphins blitz. The give is to Clarence Davis. Oh, is he hit? Boy, he is hammered down by Dick Anderson. Bonaconte blitzing that time.
You know, if the Raiders have one deficiency on offense, it's the lack of great speed at the running back position. Neither Davis nor certainly not Van Egan is a breakaway threat, but both of them are durable ground gainers, and they're very reliable blockers.
Raiders are upset about something. Looks like Madden is trying to get the attention of the ref. And Shula is saying something to the ref.
Well, you know, both of these coaches have an extraordinary eye for detail, and pointing out other people's errors is not a duty they'll neglect.
It's going to be second down and 11 for the Raiders. 10-7 Miami still leads. Stabler backpedals, loads up, goes down the middle, knocked in the air, deflected, picked off by Dick Anderson. Here comes Anderson, returning the interception to the 40, to the 45. Dick Anderson coming up with the Dolphins' first interception.
Well, since it was a passing situation, the Dolphins were in their 53 defense, and Matheson drops back into coverage and deflects the ball right there. Now look at this. 3 defensive backs converge on Branch, and you wonder why he's caught only 1 pass today. The Dolphins are neutralizing his speed with teamwork. He's been double and sometimes, Merrill, even triple covered at times today.
This Dolphins defense has been tough on Stabler. They've been stingy throughout the dream season. No team has allowed fewer passing yards.
The Dolphins regain the cadence they had marched to so successfully early in the first quarter. A balanced attack of runs and passes to Paul Warfield send the Raiders into a disheartening retreat.
If you put clothes on a Miami Dolphin game plan, it would look exactly like Shula. Solid, conservative, few wrinkles, but everything fits.
Dolphins still lead by 3, 10-7. They have a 2nd and 3 on the Raiders' 36. Raiders defense digs in. Give goes to Zonka. Zonka across the 30, on his feet at the 25. He's going to go! Larry Zonka gallops in for the touchdown. The Dolphins have found the soft spot on the Raiders' defense, and they're using Zonka to attack it.
Well, Merrill, you know, I think more than any specific strategy, it's the overall consistency of Miami's attack. It's just relentless. It's like a series of kidney punches. No single one of them can knock you out, but before you know it, you're bleeding inside and hanging on the ropes. Miami can be brutal, even monotonous sometimes, but in football, perfection is not necessarily pretty.
Oakland repeatedly tries to break Miami's stranglehold on their running game, yet Van Egan and Davis cannot break free. Even more frustrating for the Raiders is Miami's soft zone pass defense, which permits Stabler to complete a high percentage of his passes, but the gains are small.
Curtis Johnson's done a pretty good job on Branch. He's held him to 2 catches and 1 touchdown. Branch leads the dream season in touchdown receptions. Right now, he splits out to the left. 2nd and 11. The Raiders on their own 27-yard line. Stabler back to throw again. He's looking for Branch. Going deep down the left side. It is incomplete. That is a catch that Branch normally makes. He was out there. He was open. Stabler led him perfectly. He simply dropped the ball.
You know, some of these Raider fans look like they came out of a bad episode of Star Trek.
Boy, don't they? Some of these Raiders players look like they've appeared in the same program. 1:55 left in the third quarter. Dolphins still leading by 10 at 17-7. Dolphins have allowed the fewest points of any defense in the dream season. Stabler sets the offense with Branch splitting wide again. Stabler retreats back to his own 20. He fires deep downfield looking for Branch. Underthrown. Branch goes back and gets it. Branch goes back. He's on his feet. He's on his feet. Cliff Branch is going to take it in for a touchdown. A poorly thrown pass.
into an underthrown ball. Then Branch just gets up and he scoots around Johnson and Anderson for the touchdown.
And things tightening up a little more as we've reached the end of the third quarter with Miami leading 7. 9:50 remaining in the fourth quarter. Miami leading by 3. 17-14. A berth in the Dream Bowl on the line.
Well, the earthbound Dolphins have made all the little plays successfully, but the air-minded Raiders have made the big plays spectacularly.
In the fourth quarter, the Raiders begin to look like the team that had dominated opponents throughout the season. All parts of their offense are working as they invade Miami territory. 3 times the Raiders face critical third down situations, and every time they convert to first down.
5:54 remaining in the fourth quarter. 2nd and 4 for the Raiders. They're at the Dolphins 12. Dolphins still lead by 3, 17-14. The tension showing on Shula's face. Stabler is back again. He's looking. He floats it into the end zone. Grab for a foul and catch. Biletnikoff. I don't know how he got both feet in, but he made the play. Tim Foley couldn't cover any tighter. That is the longest scoring drive against the Dolphins in this dream season. 12 plays, 82 yards, and the Raiders take the lead 21-17.
Look at this replay. There's just no adequate defense against a great individual effort like this. Tim Foley's all over Biletnikoff, and Fred still makes a sensational one-handed grab for the score.
We have 5 minutes to play. The Dolphins trail for the first time, 21-17. This is the first time in this dream season that they've trailed in the fourth quarter. Not a position that they're familiar with.
That's right. Only once during their undefeated season in 1972 were the Dolphins forced to drive for the winning touchdown in the closing minutes. Now, to advance to the Dream Bowl, they've got to march 80 yards through the fired-up Raiders.
Miami turns back to the wall desperation into a clear, thinking, measured attack. And their progress downfield is marked by the traits that symbolize their greatness: simplicity, teamwork, and will. Leaving nothing to chance and everything to skill, the Dolphins march 71 yards through the heart of the Raiders' defense. A game and a season of dreams is now poised in the balance.
This is it. Raiders lead 21-17. 2nd and goal for the Dolphins. 6 seconds left. This is it. This is the season. The season hangs on the line. This Dolphins team has they have never been beaten. Both teams battling in a bitter battle for a spot in the Dream Bowl. This should do it right here. Reese. He's back. He's looking, going for the end zone, deflected. The Raiders picked off, and that's going to do it. Phillips comes up with it, and the Raiders will win.
Hold it.
Timeout.
Penalty.
I don't believe it. If it's against the Raiders, the Dolphins get another shot.
It is. Defensive holding against the Raiders.
The Dolphins have a prayer. The Dolphins are still alive. Stabler can't believe it. Neither can Systrom.
We're seeing another incredible chapter in the great Raider tradition of mind-bending, heart-rending digestion-ending finish as well. The holy roller, the immaculate reception. What next?
No time left. One last chance for the Dolphins. Here it is. This is the game right here. Greasy toward the air. There are no penalty flags. No flags this time. And the Dolphins survive. The Dolphins beat the Raiders. They hoist Don Shula on their shoulders. The Dolphins are heading for the Dream Bowl. NFL Dream Season, brought to you by AT&T, the right choice. What an ending. That was absolutely unbelievable. That's going to rival the miracle of the Meadowlands and some of the others I've seen. The Dolphins win it 24-21. Security cleared the field. They kicked the extra point. So Miami advances, and that is going to be a finish, Steve, discussed for a long time.
Well, let's take a look at it again, Merrill. The Raiders get good pressure on Greasy. But look at this. Willie Brown loses his footing and falls down. Warfield is left all alone in the end zone. And, you know, destiny or luck or whatever you want to call it, it's a fickle thing. And it'll hold your hand long enough to make you think it really cares for you. And it's held on to the Raiders' hands many times in the past. But for now, at least, Merrill, it walks with the team that beat them, the Miami Dolphins, right into the Dream Bowl.
And we have a bit of walk